Welcome to the Hyoco video series on Hyoco software. This video will cover Hyoco Impress 1.1.5. Now you bought your sign with a certain height in pixels and width in pixels, and we want to make sure that the Impress software matches that size. So when you send your messages out to the sign, they're not too big and they're not too small. They match the size of the sign. To do that, we go to the Edit Create tab. We'll go to File, New, and we're going to change the width and the height to your sign. As an example, we'll change this to 128. We'll change this to 96. Again, this is an example. This may not be your particular size of your sign. Now the preview, when it comes up, will show you your sign's height and width and will allow you to create your messages properly fitted. Now you'll notice that there are 4 displays. In the middle is your normal display showing you what you're working on and what it looks like. Each of these particular frames can have multiple layers. This is one layer, and in the upper left you see layer 1. And if you had other layers such as images and so forth, you will see different other layers on the left. In the upper right is a continuous preview of your different frames and their messages, so that you'll see from one frame to the next how each of those messages will look. If there are effects, how those effects will look from one frame to the next. So you'll have a running tabulation in the upper right hand corner of your different messages in their different frames as you build them. When you're done, you'll be able to see one after the other how your frames will look on the sign before you send them. And the bottom window here is a navigation window. It shows you the number of frames you're working on and allows you to walk back and forth between different frames for modifications, changing, or corrections. Now this shows frame number 1. I'm going to create 4 more frames, and I'm going to give them names so that we can watch in the upper right hand corner the tabulation of each of those frames, just to show you how those previews will look before we're finally finished. And again, I'm going to do 5 different frames. We also will notice that as we do this, the frames will catch up. That is, in the upper right hand corner, you'll notice that frames 1, 2, 3, 4 will start to show up, and then all of them will be caught up, and you'll see frames 1 through 5. Now we're going to work our way back down to frame 1, and we're going to show some messages. Now we're going to do a basic message. And you notice that it is too big, and because it's the TrueType font and you have control, you can go to the text and shadow window in the bottom right, and we can crank it down. Now we can make it fit the sign as we like. You can also squeeze the spacing and the physical spacing between lines, as you can see. And as a result, you can make this pretty large and fit the sign as big as you want. You want to go big, you want to go bold, you do not want your drive-bys to have any problems seeing your message. Note that it comes in red with all of the features turned on. That is, the shadow is turned on, the alias is turned on, and the outline is turned on. Now I'm going to turn off the shadows. I'm going to make the shadows background black so that they don't show. I'm going to turn the outline off. I'm going to make it black so that it doesn't leak through. And I'm going to change the text to yellow. Nice bright yellow. Now you'll notice that in the setup, the text is just a basic plain text. If you want to create some more outlines or embellishments to create contrast, you can also go back to the outline. We'll create a big bold red. We'll turn it on for a few points. 2 to 3 is about the best for a good outline. Now you notice that the text is static. That is, it's not moving or changing. What we're going to do is we're going to put some effects to this particular frame. In the upper right hand corner, you've got the text, which is what you're working on, and we can say let's do a scroll, let's go to the left, let's go down to the exit, we'll do another scroll, but we'll make it go to the right, and we'll slow it down so that we can see the effect when it rolls around. Remember that in the upper right hand corner you've got a rolling preview of each frame as they walk around. So we'll finish with frame 5, and then we'll see what frame 1 looks like with its preview. So here it comes with the scrolling in, staying there for 5 seconds, and scrolling out. So that's an effect, and in this case it's an effect for 5 seconds. Now the reason for that is because we can match the city ordinances that may restrict you to the time you can change a frame from, say, 10 seconds to 30 seconds or none at all. In other words, the appear effect can be none if the city says that you can't have effects because it will cause panic in the streets. We'll leave this one as a scroll for our demonstrations. We're going to move now to frame 2 to show you additional effects. So we'll just call this one effects. Now obviously it's by default in red with all of the things turned on, so we're going to turn off everything. We're going to change the color to blue, and we're going to change the size, and we're going to change the background by this background color to a nice yellow. Remember that you are always trying to get a good contrast for your text so that it's very easy for your drive-bys and walk-bys to read your message. Now again, effects. You have a wide variety of effects. Fade in, fade out, scroll in, scroll out, mesh in, mesh out, wipe, wink, travel, and wave. We're going to do this as a fade in, and then we're going to do it as a mesh. Again, we'll leave it at 5 seconds, and notice that it didn't do anything the first time around. It will have to go back around and catch up in order to be seen. So that lets us move on to frame 3. Frame 3, we're going to show you how to handle images. Now, when we do images, you'll notice that this is frame 3. This is a text element or a text layer. And it's got a nice little outline to show you that you've got a box with text in it. We want a frame that's nice and clean, so we're going to go up to the upper left to remove text so that this frame is nice and clean, and you'll notice over to the left there are no layers. We're going to bring in an image. We're going to go to the Browse folder. Now this is the folder that I've been sending and saving all kinds of different images for some time now, obviously since Christmas. And there are images of drawings of food or restaurants or takeout places or images, Christmas stuff, icons, Mickey, the Colonel, and so forth, or college students. What I'm going to do is go back up here and pick the jet. And you notice the jet shows in the left-hand side how big it is if it's going to be in the frame fitted, or if I zoom to height, it's a little bit too big. If I zoom to width, it's the correct width, but I'm going to have a little bit left over so that I don't see that part of the image at the bottom, so that the sign itself down here would be black. Or no size, you can see it's so big that it's too big for the frame. So I'm going to fit it to the frame and say OK. Now this is the background image or layer 1, and this will be in the background. Now let's bring in another image on top of that, but showing you what to do for transparency. Now transparency is recognized in PNG and other file types so that you can see the background with a foreground image. I'll click on this one, and you'll notice that there are checkerboards in the background. These checkerboards means that this is a transparent image in which only the actual image is there and there is no background. I'll fit it to frame, say OK, and sure enough, I can see the background behind this transparent image. Now you notice that when it came in, it was highlighted, so that if I move anything around, I only move the highlighted image. I'm going to put this in a particular area, and then I'm going to go up to the bottom right and do one of the grabbers, and I'm going to change that image and put it in the back. Now, I want to put some text on the background color image, so I'm going to click on that image so I know that it's highlighted, and I'm going to select the fonts, and I'm going to just basically put in a message, and I'm going to reduce it in size. I'm going to shrink it down. I'm going to change the color. I'm going to make it a nice blue to match the jets. And I'm going to do an outline that's a little bit different so that we can have a little bit of embellishment on the outline. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And if you'll notice, I've got two images and text. Now I need to make the background image a time so that it shows instantaneously, and that's 0. So I'm going to go to the whole time, and again the background image, I'm going to make it 0. Then I'm going to highlight the foreground image, and I'm going to leave it at 5.0. What that means is that the background image will come in instantly, and then the foreground image will make everything last that particular period of time, which is 5 seconds. Now I'm going to go to the background again. I'm going to go to my highlight. I'm going to click on text. I'm going to select a fade in, and I'm going to go back down to text. And again, it's because we're working on text. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to mesh out. Now we're going to make it stay actually, so that it fades in and stays for 5 seconds. So now we've got our background image done, our foreground image done, and our text. And now we'll move on to frame 5. Now we'll ever so often look up at the upper right running frames to see how things look, so that they are good, they do the particular effect, and that everything looks fine. So I'm in frame 4. We're going to do a countdown in frame 4. So I'm going to get rid of this particular text, and I'm going to do days to Father's Day. And I'm going to do it on the third line because I want a countdown. In the far upper right, I've got the countdown icon. I'm going to do a countdown. I'm going to do it in days. And I'm going to go to June 19th. And I'm going to set it up for a dinner at 5 o'clock for Father. So I just type it in the time and say OK. Now you'll notice that the countdown is at 32. But obviously the countdown is too big. So I'm going to crank it down in size. And I'm going to bring in a gift image. Now, gift images for Impress need to be drag and drop. So I'm going to bring up my folder, and I'm going to go find my Father image, and I'm going to just drag and drop it into the frame. I'm going to fit it to the entire frame. Say OK. And you notice that it's now a background image with Father in the background, and I'm going to push the text for the Father to the foreground by using this arrow. Now I'm going to do 2 or 3 things. I'm going to shrink it down. I'm going to change the color. I'm going to do an outline to help embellish it a little bit. I'm going to bring it down to the bottom. That's about the right size. And I'm going to do an effect. It's a text. I'm going to do a mesh in. I'm going to do a text. And I'm going to do a fade out. And this will last for 5 seconds. So now we just have to wait until it walks around to see that particular one. But in order to save time, we'll continue on to move to frame 5. With frame 5, I'm going to show you a countdown. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do a countdown. I'm going to do time and temperature. So I don't need the frame 5. And I'm going to go and show you there is our date selection. Here is our time, local short time, which is what I want, or 24-hour military time, or just the hour or the minute or a count of seconds. And I'm just going to do a short time. I'm going to do the second line because I want to have the temperature at the bottom. So I'm going to go to the second one, where you can see I've got both Fahrenheit for United States or centigrade for our friends up north or Europe. I'm going to pick a simple one. You notice by default it's 77.0, and this is a placeholder. This is not the actual temperature at the sign. So in the software, this will always be 77 degrees because it's a placeholder. It's just not looking at the sign. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to change the font to Impact, and these fonts are all on your computer. They are found by the Impress being loaded, and then it basically loads the font cache. I'm going to turn off the outline, turn off the alias, turn off the outline, sorry, and then I'm going to change the color to something summery. And I'm going to show you the shadow, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a very dark shadow. So I'm going to go into the shadows, I'm going to go into the greens, I'm going to find a very dark shadow, and I'm going to start turning it on so that you can see as it moves to the right and moves down and to the left, and then I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so you can see that shadow. And I'm going to do a effect to it. I'm going to do a wave. Then I'm going to have it wink out, and I'm going to do it very slow. Well, we've now made all of our different frames, and as I said, what we can do is we can watch to check in the upper right to see if our effects is correct. We can see if our air show is correct. Everything comes at the same time. Then the air show stays there for the 5 seconds. Father's Day, the text meshes in, stays there for that 5 seconds. And then of course the temperature and the time waves in, and then one wigs out. We now have that all set up. We can now save it. We go to File, Save As. I'm saving everything in a folder that I created called Sign Messages 2016. And I'm going to give this a name. I'm not going to leave it as message. So I'm going to call it Welcome Air Show, Father's Day, Time, Temp. I'm going to leave it as a .yml, and I'm going to say Save. Now once it's saved, I can then move on to my schedule. So I go to my schedule and start my Insert Schedule. And you notice there's 5 types: continuous, daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. Yearly could be once a year, such as New Year's Day. I could set up a Happy New Year's for every single January 1st between now and say 2015. So every single year, all day, Happy New Year will show on January the 1st. Or I could do a series of months, many months. All of the months are just simply May, June, and July. Or I could do a weekly, all of the days of the week, and I could set up the start time in the morning and the stop time in the evening, so that we can have, say, the daily hours from, say, 7 to 5 or 8 to 9, whatever your particular hours are, or continuous, starting today and running continuously until, in my case, 2016. Now remember, we have a schedule that's running until Father's Day. So let's walk this back to June 19th. We'll let it run until midnight, and we'll say OK. Now Impress wants to know, what message do you want to play from today until June 19th? Well, I'm going to go down to the bottom here and look for my Welcome Air Show and attach it to my playlist. A playlist with its schedule together is called a schedule. Now I'm going to check by clicking on it and take a look on the right hand side to make sure these are the messages that I want to send out to the sign. And sure enough, these are the ones that we just built and we're ready to send out to the sign. So we're going to save them. So we're going to go to File, Save As. We're going to make sure we go to our folder, which is the folder that we've built for these particular messages. And remember, this was the sign message. We're going to give it a name, and we're going to call it Welcome Air Show, Father's Day, time temp. This will tell me later when I look at the different schedules and the different messages that I have, what message did I use for with what schedule. Since these are a match, I know this particular schedule has that particular message. And as a result, I know what to go back and fix if I have to fix something or change something. And I'll say save. Now I'm ready to send this message out to the sign. So I'm going to go to transfer. And if you'll remember, we have a default IP address of 192.168.0.205. Your sign may be different because you've matched your sign to your network. We're going to send it out to this one. We're going to say this sign, fourth icon from the left, assign schedule. Which one would that be? This one, the air show, etc. I'm going to say OK. Now it's all assigned to my sign, and going to the icon, the black screen with the green arrow, I'm going to say send it out to the sign. Now we're setting it up to connect to the sign. Once we've connected it to the sign, it will be sent out to the sign. It will give me an idea of what I've got and what I've picked up, what I've copied, and so forth, and then it will send it out to the sign. And when it's done, it will simply say sent to sign OK. And then what I'll do is I'll check real quickly, sent schedule OK. I'll do a request 5, sent 5. That is exactly what I put together, and then I'll walk out and take a look at the sign. Now that takes you through all of Impress and many of its features and functions. If you have a scoreboard, we can talk about hotkeys later. Again, thank you very much for taking a look at Hyoco Impress. I hope this works out well for you.